Welcome everyone to a brand new chapter. We're starting conic sections now. Conic sections are just graphs that are created by cutting a cone. Come to class and I'll show you some great representations of it. But for today, we're going to talk about parabolas. It's going to be a little bit different than how you learn parabolas in Algebra 2. We're going to have a different formula and we're going to have more information about them. For today, all of these parabolas are going to be centered at 0, 0. They have the vertex at 0, 0. But we're going to look for things about them. So here's the true definition of a parabola, a geometric definition of a parabola. It's a curve such that there's a point and a line, and every point on the curve is equidistant from this point in the middle called the focus, and this line on the other side called the directrix. There's a lot of memorization in this chapter. It's a lot of formulas. So if you can memorize the formulas, you're going to have a very easy time of it. Here's the formula for a parabola that opens up or down. X squared equals 4py. And this is the really important part. The x squared equals 4py. Why do I say it's important? Because the p value is the focus. Since this parabola opens up or down, the x-axis is going to be what creates your, there's going to be 0 because I'm not moving left or right at all. So it's going to be comma p. And then what's going to make the directrix? Because the directrix is the opposite of the focus, it's going to be y equals the opposite of whatever that focus was. So basically, you take whatever number is in front of the letter that's not squared, and you divide it by 4, and that's your focus. And then to find the directrix, you just say y equals the other one. So let's try this one. Find the focus and the directrix of the parabola y equals negative x squared and sketch the graph. Well, remember, I need the x squared to be by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is say it's x squared equals negative y. Now, remember I said to find the focus, I take whatever's in front of the variable that's not squared and divide it by 4. So what number's in front of the variable that's not squared? What's negative 1? If I divide negative 1 by 4, I'm going to get negative 1/4. So where is that focus going to be at? The focus is at 0, negative 1/4. Okay? And here's a hint. This one wasn't squared, so this is going to be the y value. In a second, we're going to switch these two. Look at the thing that's not squared. It'll tell you which value is the focus. The directrix is y equals, in this case, the opposite value, so positive 1/4. Again, nothing too tricky. You just have to memorize this. Sketching a graph is really easy. You can do it in the calculator. Or you should know what the graph of negative x squared looks like anyways. It's an upside down parabola. You can see the focus is right here, just barely inside. And the directrix is the horizontal line on the other side of it. Okay? If I switch the y squared and the x squared, so now it's y squared equals 4px. Everything stays the same except now it's a sideways parabola. Okay? Now it's a sideways parabola. The p is still the focus, but since now the focus is sideways and this is the variable without a squared, this is going to tell you where the focus is. It's the x value now instead of the y value. And the directrix is not going to be y equals anymore, but it's going to be x equals the opposite of whatever that focus was. So let's try one. Well, what's wrong with this equation right now? It's not y squared equals or x squared equals. So I need to get it to be y squared equals. So I'll subtract this 6x over. This makes it negative 6x. Okay? Because this is the variable without a squared, I know that my focus and my directrix are going to be x values. To find the focus, I take whatever number's in front of the single variable and divide it by 4. Negative 6 divided by 4 will give you negative 3/2. So the focus is at negative 3/2. But is the negative 3/2 the x value or the y value? Well, because x is the variable by itself, the non-squared variable, it's going to be the x, negative 3/2, 0. The directrix is just the opposite of that. It's x equals this time, because it's an x value, 3/2. Now what if I wanted to graph this in my calculator? Well, let's solve for y equals. Here's what the graph looks like. First of all, before I do that, if you know that the focus is here, and you know the directrix is here, then you know the parabola has to be sideways this way. You know it had to be sideways anyways, and you should know the negative makes it go left. But you know if it has to be between those two things, that's the shape it's going to be. But again, how do I graph it in my calculator? If I solve, this is the big step. When you take the square root of both sides, it's going to be plus or minus. But remember, you can't graph plus or minus in your calculator. So you're going to have to graph one of them as square root of 6x, negative 6x. And the other one as negative square root of negative 6x. Your calculator can't graph both of them. Oh, my graph's messed up, I'm sorry. How do you get back to a normal looking graph? Zoom 6. You can't graph both of them at the same time. But you can see together, you have the sideways parabola. So remember, to find the to find the focus, divide the single variable, whatever's in front of it, by 4, and that's your focus. The directrix is the opposite of that. And the single variable will tell you whether the focus is an x value or a y value. This entire chapter is about memorization.